Hello everyone, we're back with another DIY video. Today I'm going to show you how to preserve your bridal bouquet in resin. I used bookend molds, but you can use any mold you like as long as it's deep enough to hold the flowers. This is my bouquet and it has a lot of snapdragons, garden roses, ranunculus, and other beautiful flowers and leaves. I don't know what everything is. But regardless, I'm excited to preserve the bouquet in a really unique way that still has the flowers looking fresh, even though they're dried. So as you saw, the first step is drying the flowers. You may be used to turning flowers upside down and drying them that way, but that's not going to work for this. Since you want to preserve the color of the flowers as best you can, we need to dry them in silica gel. But to do that, we need to deconstruct the bouquet first, and that's what I'm doing here. I arranged the flowers by type, and now I'm cutting off the flowers from their stems so they'll fit in my tubs of silica gel. I use these two plastic bins to dry my flowers in silica gel, and right now I'm just getting a shallow base of silica gel to be able to put the flowers into it, and you'll see I had to cut off a little more of the stem on those bigger roses because they wouldn't fit. You want to make sure that the flowers aren't touching each other so they dry adequately. So you're putting them into a small layer of silica gel and then covering them with additional silica gel. Just a friendly reminder not to forget your PPE for this. I've got on nitrile gloves as well as a respirator, and you'll need to use these for both the silica gel and the resin pouring. So it's been 3 days, and the smaller flowers, the ones with the lower petal count, those are dry and I'm putting those aside. But the bigger flowers like the garden roses, those are still not dry enough, so I'm recovering them with additional silica gel. You want to be really careful when you're removing the flowers from the silica gel. They're already delicate before they're dry, but when they're dry, they're extra brittle, so just be gentle. So it's been a few more days, and now I'm checking on the flowers that I kept in the silica gel that needed additional time to dry further. And you'll notice I didn't fully cover these with silica gel. That's because the outer petals were already dry. It was just the inner petals that still had too much moisture. So I'm checking those to see if they're dry enough and putting them aside if they are, but not all of them were, so there were still flowers that I had to leave in for an additional few days. So don't worry if that's the case with you, especially if you've got really full, high petal count flowers in your bouquet. Now that our flowers are dried, it's time to preserve them in resin. Please note this isn't a beginner resin how-to video, but let me know in the comments below if you'd like a future tutorial on that. Assuming you know the basics of resin, here I am mixing part A into part B and pouring a very thin layer into the mold. Gotta get rid of those air bubbles, so I used my heat gun and handy dandy toothpick. By the way, I really enjoyed using Counterculture DIY's casting resin for this project and definitely recommend it. I've linked it in the details below, as well as other supplies needed for this project. Now the fun part of designing your creation, whether it's bookends like mine or maybe you have a different mold. This is my base layer, so I'm focusing on only greenery here. It's been 24 hours and our first layer of resin has cured, so now it's time to pour our second layer. This project will take about 8 or so layers, so it's going to be about at least 8 days of work. We're doing the same thing we did yesterday, pouring a thin layer of resin, eliminating air bubbles as best as we can, and placing our flowers and leaves where we want them within the mold. It's okay if you change your mind on placement when you're doing it. You'll see I moved things around in mine a lot, but just be quick so the resin doesn't harden. Rinsing and repeating over here. Our resin has cured, it's been 24 hours, and it's time for the next layer. I added a few more flowers in my third layer here, but every layer after this was only resin. I didn't record myself pouring the remaining layers, but here's a series of photos throughout the whole process. Once you've filled your mold nearly to the top, it's time to pour on the artist resin. This is that final touch. This resin is meant for really thin pours and it hardens better than casting resin. Casting resin cures kind of soft, so using this gives your piece a harder surface and makes it more durable. Once the last layer of resin has cured, it's time for the most exciting part, demolding. I found these bookend molds were actually really difficult to demold, so I cut out a lot of this video and fast forwarded it 8 times. But was it worth the difficulty and the cut to my finger? You bet. After some light sanding of the edges, my new bridal bouquet bookends are complete. Here's a photo summary of the process. if you want to recreate this project, I've included a lot of information in the video description below. And if you have any questions about the process, feel free to leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue to grow my channel.